Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to provide this keynote address for the 2024 Core Marine Conference. It is a special pleasure for me to address you in the home country of IMO's Secretary General Emeritus, Mr. Heike Deggim. I'm sure most of you will agree with me when I start by saying that shipping is a rather traditional business with a relatively low public profile. This is surprising, taking into account that the maritime industry is a crucial part of the global supply chain, with more than 80% of all goods worldwide transported by ships and millions of people relying on it. However, recent geopolitical events have brought into sharp focus the importance of shipping, whether it concerns the shortage of grain in developing countries or more mundane things like a shortage of certain consumer goods, particularly in countries which depend heavily on their import. We always say without shipping, one half of the world would starve and the other half would freeze. No shipping, no shopping is also used frequently. As we all know, the Republic of Korea plays a pivotal role in international shipping. You have some of the world's largest and most technologically advanced shipyards, renowned for their ability to produce a wide range of ships, from container ships and oil tankers to LNG carriers and specialized offshore platforms. Your shipbuilding industry is characterized by high efficiency, innovation, and adherence to stringent quality standards, making it the preferred choice for many shipping companies worldwide. In addition, your country's strategic geographical location further enhances your significance in international shipping. Your major ports, including Busan, Incheon, and Gwangyang, serve as critical hubs for global maritime trade. The port of Busan, in particular, ranks among the busiest container ports in the world, acting as a transshipment center for cargo moving between Asia, Europe, and North America. Your commitment to innovation and sustainability in maritime operations also contributes to your prominent role in international shipping, aligning with global efforts to mitigate climate change and promote the adoption of environmentally responsible practices across the industry. Through your active participation in the ongoing discussions on the decarbonization of international shipping, you are assisting in the shaping of the new regulatory framework currently under discussion in IMO. Ladies and gentlemen, shipping is currently experiencing what is surely an unprecedented time of transformation, addressing the obligations to contribute its share towards combating climate change, while simultaneously accommodating new technologies in the strive towards digitalization and automation. But we can only successfully navigate this major transition and respond to the ever-evolving needs of a green and sustainable maritime sector if all maritime stakeholders work together. IMO, as the global standard-setting body for shipping, is the natural forum to facilitate these partnerships and collaborations, ensuring that the maritime sector continues to deliver goods across the world safely, securely, efficiently, and sustainably. Collaboration is the backbone of all IMO's efforts and our successes. Thanks are due to our member states and maritime stakeholders for their unfaltering support for IMO's work. In this regard, I would like to again specifically acknowledge the steadfast support and contribution of the Republic of Korea to the work of IMO. Korean experts are actively involved in all of the fields of work we deal with, and their expertise is much valued. While we work closely with national maritime authorities of all our member states, let me use this opportunity to emphasize the importance of the active participation of industry experts and associations in our work. They are the true experts, and their contribution to the work of IMO is indispensable. Ladies and gentlemen, in the spirit of collaboration, the maritime community is uniting to combat climate change, ready to play its part in the global efforts to achieve the ambitious goals set by the Paris Agreement. This presents one of the biggest challenges the shipping sector has ever faced: the decarbonization of international shipping. In this respect, the adoption of the 2023 IMO strategy on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships by MEPC 80 in July of last year was a historical milestone. It opened a new chapter towards maritime decarbonization, providing clear direction, a common vision, and ambitious targets to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping by or around 2050. The strategy represents a framework for IMO member states, setting out the future vision for international shipping, the levels of ambition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and guiding principles, and includes candidate mid- and long-term further measures with possible timelines and their impacts on states. It also identifies barriers and supportive measures, including capacity building, technical cooperation, and research and development. In particular, the strategy envisages a reduction in carbon intensity of international shipping, that is CO2 emissions per transport work, as an average across international shipping by at least 40% by 2030. It also includes a new level of ambition relating to the uptake of zero or near zero greenhouse gas emission technologies, fuels and/or energy sources which are to represent at least 5%, striving for 10% of the energy used by international shipping by 2030. The four main levels of ambition directing the 2023 IMO greenhouse gas strategy are as follows. The carbon intensity of ships will decline through the further improvement of the energy efficiency of new ships. The carbon intensity of international shipping will decline through the reduction of CO2 emissions per transport work, as an average across global shipping by at least 40% by 2030, compared to 2008. The uptake of zero or near zero greenhouse gas emission technologies, fuels and/or energy sources will increase to represent at least 5%, striving for 10% of the energy used by international shipping by 2030. And last but not least, the greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping will peak as soon as possible and reach net zero by or around, that is close to 2050, taking into account different national circumstances. All of this requires proactive action from industry. The maritime sector is witnessing pilot projects using alternative fuels, adapting existing technologies, or installing new technological solutions. Some companies have already invested huge amounts in decarbonizing their fleets. All of this, of course, comes at a cost. A carbon pricing mechanism is currently under discussion, and views on what would be the most appropriate way to go about it differ enormously among our member states. This was clearly evidenced by the long and protracted discussions on the matter at the recent 81st session of the Marine Environment Protection Committee, the MEPC. The 2023 greenhouse gas strategy envisages that candidate measures delivering on the reduction targets would comprise both a technical element, namely a goal-based marine fuel standard, and an economic element on the basis of a maritime greenhouse gas emission pricing mechanism. A steering committee is currently conducting a comprehensive impact assessment of the impacts of candidate measures on states. It is expected that its report will be submitted to MEPC 82 in October of this year for consideration. But nobody should be under any illusion. Any pricing mechanism, whatever form it will eventually take, will lead to higher prices for transporting goods by sea, and in the end will affect the prices the consumers will pay. There are a number of questions to be settled before agreement can be reached. Proposals submitted to MEPC 81 for the price per ton of carbon differ widely and range from $20 to $250. Flat fee or trading mechanism was another issue. Where would the money be collected? How would it be distributed? Which fuels are considered to be low carbon? Discussions on life cycle assessment are ongoing. Will these alternative fuels be available at scale? Some say that would be impossible, especially for biofuels. Currently, 93% of the global fleet is still running on conventional fuel. In this regard, it is noteworthy that the CEO of DNV Maritime, Knut Orbeck Nielsen, recently highlighted the significant divide between politicians' ambitions and what the industry can actually deliver. Another contentious issue is what the funds acquired through a pricing mechanism will be used for. Discussions are continuing about in-sector to assist shipping in its decarbonization efforts, out of sector for broader climate change action, and everything in between. We are on course to settling all these matters by the end of next year as planned in the greenhouse gas strategy, but negotiations will be intense and difficult. A very positive development at MEPC 81 was the agreement on an illustration of a possible draft outline of an IMO net zero framework for cutting greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping, which came as a bit of a surprise since this development was unexpected. The illustration lists regulations under MARPOL which could be adopted or amended to allow for a new global fuel standard and a new global pricing mechanism for maritime greenhouse gas emissions, possibly in the form of a new Chapter 5 to Annex 6 of MARPOL. It was the understanding of the committee that this outline could be used as a starting point for consolidating the different proposals into a possible common structure for further development. Discussions on this framework will continue at MEPC 82. In this regard, pending the finalization of a global carbon pricing mechanism by IMO, we would expect regional emission trading systems to fall in line and align their rules with the global system. Shipping is a global business, and the requirements regulating it should therefore be applied and implemented worldwide. We should also bear in mind that shipping will be the first international transport sector to introduce mandatory provisions to address climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the successful delivery of an ambitious and accelerated greenhouse gas reduction policy undoubtedly requires the assessment of associated safety risks to ships, the people operating them, and the surrounding infrastructure and personnel. It also requires the delivery of the necessary accompanying international safety regulations. The timescale for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships embedded in the strategy means there is a commensurate urgency to understand related safety risks and to ensure the safety of the necessary solutions. It is expected that the ambitious regulatory targets will act as the catalyst for technology, triggering research, development, and innovation. In this regard, the Maritime Safety Committee, at its 108th session in May of this year, noted the report of its correspondence group on the development of a safety regulatory framework to support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships using new technologies and alternative fuels, which the committee had established at MSC 107. The report presented a summary list of fuels and technologies that could support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships, together with an assessment of technical aspects, hazards and risks to ships shoreside for each of these listed fuels and technologies. Safety obstacles and gaps in existing regulations were also assessed. The committee re-established the correspondence group and instructed it to develop recommendations to address each of the identified barriers and gaps in current IMO instruments that impede the safe use of an alternative fuel or new technology, and work on the matter will continue at the forthcoming MSC sessions. At the same time, the HTW subcommittee will proceed with the development of training provisions for seafarers on ships using alternative fuels. IMO must also ensure that this ambitious transition is just and equitable by supporting developing countries, and that is why we are developing partnerships with governments, industry, and financial institutions to facilitate resource mobilization. Through global long-term projects, we are promoting inclusive innovation and supporting trials and pilots with a focus on technology deployment and green maritime infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, in concluding, let me just put in a few words here regarding the often made accusation that IMO is too slow. There is a lot of pressure on us to act quickly to prevent further climate change. But IMO cannot arbitrarily set the rules. All we can do is encourage, charm and cajole our member states. In the end, they are the ones to sign up to change. Given the colossal differences in the levels of budget, technology and needs among our 176 members, it is nothing short of astonishing that we have achieved so much in our recent history. Shipping has undergone many successful transitions, and I'm certain that with ambitious yet feasible decisions agreed through collaboration and consensus building at the IMO, we will also successfully navigate the energy transition. Partnerships, collaboration and dialogue are the trademarks of IMO and will be more important than ever. We will continue to play our role as the global forum for international shipping to facilitate collaboration of all stakeholders of the maritime ecosystem. Together, we can realize our ambitious goals to lead shipping into a decarbonized and sustainable future. Shipping is entering an exciting new age. Under the banner of IMO, all relevant stakeholders, including governments, the shipping industry, ports, technology suppliers, academia, investors, and environmental groups, are actively working to ensure that shipping has a truly sustainable future, so that people everywhere can continue to reap the benefits of an industry they fundamentally rely on but rarely see. Thank you and best wishes for a successful conference.